Hey Giants fans, welcome back to Giants Latest. Today we are talking about Jameis Winston and Jackson Dart because they are the two quarterbacks who spoke to John Schmelk on Giants Huddle and gave us some insight about what it's like to be Giants and learning this new offense and all sorts of things. So I want to start by talking about the offense a little bit because a common theme that I'm hearing from basically all of these players so far, because we've mostly only heard from players on offense, it's been tight ends, running backs, quarterbacks, and wide receivers, is obviously Dable's offense is extensive and it's difficult to learn, but a lot of the concepts are the same as other offenses across the NFL. The reason why it's so challenging is because there's a lot of freedom and flexibility given to the players. So whether you're a running back, a wide receiver, or a tight end, you have the flexibility to basically change your route at any point. So Dable, they call the play or whatever and you're running, if you see that there's a part of the field that's wide open, or if you feel like you're not going to be able to catch it because this defensive back is coming on and you want to run straight versus going in towards the middle of the field, you have the option to really be flexible with it. And that's why it's so challenging. And especially for some of the young guys, that's been one of the reasons why they have said, it's tough for them to learn and really catch on. And I can only imagine what it's like as a quarterback because you have that same flexibility, right? And if you see that, your wide receivers are running one way, excuse me, I can speak, I promise. And then, they start cutting in towards the middle or running toward the outside, like you have to be able to make that adjustment on the fly. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons why this offense has not been successful over the last couple years, is because so much of it hinges on the relationship between the quarterback and the players. And now I think the previous quarterbacks had good relationships with the players, right? Like we never really heard or saw anything that would lead us to believe otherwise. But I think ultimately you have a quarterback who is limited from day one in his skill set and talent, and there's only so much that you can really do to make that better. And I think there's a lot of reasons why it didn't work for Daniel Jones here, and I hope that it works for him elsewhere. He's, a good guy who deserves to have that opportunity, and it sounds like he's getting it in Indianapolis. But I just think the type of offense that Dable wanted to run, it just was not good for him as a quarterback. And I think that's one of the reasons why they always talk so much and are so focused on having a veteran, is because someone like Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston, with all of their experience in the league, probably have some sort of experience with the freedom and flexibility that an offense like this brings, but they also have the capability of being able to excel at it. We hope, right? Like that's what we want to see this year. But I think unfortunately that Dable just kind of learned the hard way that like it was never going to be that for Jones, and it makes me think like I just can't believe that him and Shane, I don't know, I think they had issues when it came to the quarterback position as a whole, but it's just mind-boggling to me. And also when you see the fact that the Giants have had so many different quarterbacks play since Shane and Dable have been here, it's been at least 3, sometimes 4 quarterbacks in a season. Like no wonder the offense looks horrible if you've got all of your skill players who are thinking like they have the flexibility and the freedom to kind of run free. Essentially, it's not that flexible, but you know what I mean. They're available to kind of change things on the fly. And then you've got a quarterback who's probably like lost in space, like freaking Tommy DeVito, who's like first game in, they didn't even let him throw the ball. So, I think, I don't know. I don't know if this is supposed to make you guys feel better or worse about the situation. When I've been thinking about it, it kind of makes me feel a little bit better that it was more so about the quarterback position and of course the offensive line than I think anything else. And when you hear from players and they talk about learning this offense and all of the things like that, I don't know, I think it kind of just makes a lot of sense as to why it never really clicked or worked for Jones here, and that so many of the issues that we saw, especially last year, like him just not even pulling the trigger on the deep ball at all, is a huge reason why, if you're the Giants, you have to look at someone like Russ Wilson and Malik Neighbors and be like, these guys are going to be electric this year. What is there? There's no reason not to think that. So anyway, I don't know. It's given me a little bit of hope, especially me, someone who has been very critical of Dable, that maybe it's not so much Dable and the offensive scheme that he's running. It's the personnel that he had that wasn't capable of running that. Now, I know the contrary to that is going to be like, okay, but we brought back the same 5 offensive linemen. We drafted a 7th round tight end, and we still have the same wide receivers and only 1 new running back. Like, I get all of that, but I really think that the quarterback is going to be able to elevate that so much more than what we've seen. And when you also hear the way that all of the skill players talk about Russell and that he's so specific and overly communicative and tells everyone where they need to be, and he's fostering these relationships of trust and timing and accuracy and this and that, like, we never heard any of that for any of the quarterbacks that have been on this team for the last 5 years. So I really think that Russell's experience in the league is going to be a huge reason as to why we see a significantly better offense this year. So let's hope that it all pans out, but I'm starting to have a little bit more hope that, it's not Dable's offense, it's just the personnel who were in it, as mostly the quarterback. So I think with Russell's lead, we're going to see also a lot better play from the skill players. So I'm excited about that. All right, let's talk about Jameis Winston, because him and Jackson Dart were the 2 quarterbacks who spoke. So Winston, again, reiterated all of this, which is why I'm talking about it. He's been in the league, 8 or 9 years at this point, and he said that this offense is one of the most challenging ones that he's been in throughout his entire career. He often comes in early and stays late, that the concepts are similar to those throughout the league, but the freedom and the access that the quarterback have can make it difficult to learn. So an example that he gave was this. A lot of the calls are just one word, but that one word in itself includes the formation, protection, alerts, and etc. And he said that there's a lot of memorization that he's been having to do on his part, because you only have one chance. You have one word, and you better get it right. And you better make sure that it includes all the right protections and everything like that. So he said that that has definitely been challenging, even for someone as late in his career as he's at. The fact that he's learned different offenses, worked with Sean Payton, things like that. He said, there's definitely still a learning curve, and I have some work to do. So the same is across the board for everyone. I think Russell Wilson would probably just give you a very, media trained answer of I've been in the league a long time. I have confidence in my abilities and Dable, and we have a great relationship. And whenever we have questions, we talk. You know what I mean? Like, he would never say what Jada said, which is why I like these interviews, because sometimes you get little peeks into things that you wouldn't get from some of the other players. He was asked about what it's like knowing that he's essentially the backup quarterback, and you still have to build relationships with guys like Darius Slayton and Wan'Dale Robinson, even though you're not getting all the reps with him. And, he gave a Jameis answer where he said, I'm really just grateful that I'm getting any reps at all. And I feel really grateful that I get to put on that blue jersey and I get to be a New York Giant. And then he laughed and said, it's really a red jersey during OTAs and such. But he's grateful for all of it, and he's really happy to be here. He said, when he was asked about what kind of help or advice he's been giving to someone like Jackson Dart, who was also a 1st round pick like Jameis Winston was, he said that he really reiterated and reinforced to him to use all of his resources, whether that's people in the Giants building or outside the Giants building, but use them to your advantage. That's what they're there for. They're there to help you learn. They're there to help you rehab correctly, take care of your body, all of the things that as a rookie you're really learning. It's a lot. It's a lot on one person all at once. And you'll hear from Jackson Dart that he basically said the same thing. And, that Winston told Dart to basically create your own little family of, someone from the medical staff and someone from, this team that can all really help you if you're having any type of issue. He was asked about his leadership style, about how it's so different than so many other quarterbacks and other players that we hear from. And he said, he gave a couple examples of things that he's really learned throughout his career. One under Sean Payton, where, they were boarding a commercial flight to go either back home or to another game, and they were running behind. So they were trying to rush people through the check-in line or the boarding line. And a guy comes up to him and he's got like a baby in one arm, and he's like giving him something else for Jameis Winston to sign. line. And Sean Payton told him, we're not kissing babies here. We're late. Let's go. And Jameis said, that was a good experience for me, that I just had to learn that, like, I know that I'm a good person. I'm authentic. I'm myself, and I do my best to be the best person that I could be. But sometimes I can't always sign an autograph. And, I feel bad that if that fan felt bad, but I'm also doing my job, and my coach is yelling at me that, like, that has to come first, that type of thing. So, he basically just said that he what you see and what you hear from him, that's him. He's himself, he's authentic, he's original, and he thinks that's why people gravitate to him, and why, everyone jokes around about his post games and things like that, is because he really just says the first thing that comes to mind, and that's who he is as a person. He was asked about the wide receiver room, and he said, a couple things that he didn't know about Darius until he met him was that he's really physical and sure-handed. He said that he's very immersed in the system. He's smart, electric with speed, and always open from the film study that Jameis Winston has watched. So, is Darius Slayton going to have a very good year for the Giants? He should. He said that getting to know all of these guys personally is how he develops relationships with all of them, making sure that they're on the same page, talking about timing and accuracy and all of those things. He mentioned Wan'Dale specifically too, like he did Slayton, and said that he asks very intentional questions when they're in meetings, and he loves that about him. Lastly, he said he was asked, why should we really be excited about this football team? Like, what can Giants fans look forward to this year? You guys are going to love this answer. He said it starts with the trenches, and the offensive line is good. I swear to God, I'm not making that up. That is what Jameis Winston said. He said, so are the running backs. Everyone can block. They can make plays. He said, we have Malik Neighbors. He's electric. I can't wait to have him out there on the field. Like, what is there not to love, basically, about someone like Malik Neighbors and about this group? Like I said, his words, not mine. They believe in the offensive line. Week 1, we will know whether or not we as fans should also believe in them. All right, next up, let's talk about Jackson Dart. So he said the first couple days he felt like he was swimming. And I think the analogy that he meant to make there was like keeping his head above water. That's what I got based on what else he said. That, it's a lot to learn, like drinking out of a fire hose, another great example. It's a lot to learn in a short amount of time. And, as a rookie, like some of the other players have mentioned, you're learning about taking care of your body, what it's like to be a pro, how to be in the NFL, how to manage, moving to a new place where you don't know anyone, and learning about your coaches and all of these things. It's a lot in a short amount of time. So he said, though, that he has great coaching, he loves the staff, and he said that the development plan that they have set out for him that he's been following has all been very helpful to him. And he says he gives a lot of credit to the coaching staff and everyone who's been very helpful. He said conceptually, he's basically ran all of the same plays. All of the concepts have been similar to what he did in college, that obviously Dable puts a different spin on it. He said that learning the lingo is different. Of course, he has to learn how to do the verbal cadence, which is not something that he did at Ole Miss. So some of the reads are a little bit different. So a lot from a learning perspective, especially when it comes to the offense specifically, of like really narrowing down the differences between what he knew from the past and what he has to learn now, and how he has to learn and be able to pick it up really quickly, because he said he has to be prepared that if his number gets called, he has to be able to go out there and succeed. That basically he's just managing how to develop, how to learn fast, and how to be able to do all of these things that if he gets the opportunity, he wants to be able to make the most of it. He said the things that he thinks will help him succeed in the NFL is his aggressiveness, ability to push the ball down the field. He said that he's really excited for training camp because obviously there's no pads and no tackling or anything like that throughout OTAs and mini camp. But he said right now it's basically a lot of learning and you're not putting everything that you've learned into action. And once you get to training camp, that's what you get to do. And he said that's what he's really excited about, that I get to prove to myself and to others that when I get that opportunity and when I get with those reps with the ones, that I'm able to successfully make the plays that I need to play, and that I can prove, that I deserve to be out here and I deserve these reps. So he said that he's working on, being able to execute the plays and feel comfortable and confident and being able to do that. And then lastly, he just said that he has a really strong work ethic and he thinks that his ability to lead others are so important. Obviously, the talent is one thing, but that you have to be able to have some of these other skill sets in order to be able to succeed once you get that time on the field. So he's looking forward to it. I think I can speak for a lot of us when I say that we're excited for training camp, and I cannot believe it's going to be here in less than a month, and I'm so excited. So hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date on all things Giants.